All right. Now, thank you everybody for coming out, and thanks for introducing yourselves. So I'm going to pass out these handouts here. Here you go. You're welcome. This is that one, and yeah, this is to give you guys, because there's so much to talk about these mound builders. It's the most fascinating subject that I ever gotten into with Native American history, and I just. And by the end of the day, you'll find out why I suggested to have it, to talk about it here tonight, because, yeah, it's really exciting that,
Want me to pass that out?
yeah, thank you very much, yeah, here's, yeah, there's one on the bottom, yeah, with the
Okay.
introduction, so,
Sounds good.
thank you. So, you'll be getting the, like I said, you'll be getting this handout. So turn to the one with the Adena people, turn to the second page. Now, that's a map. I was really happy that this was the map, I shared this around, and I told people every time I shared it, that this is actually how many mounds that they knew about in 1894. So the mound builders were a great civilization, and it's just so amazing. Those are all the mounds or the mound complexes that they built around the mounds in 1894. And since then they've discovered, like you said, it says over here, identified 12,000 mounds in Minnesota alone. So we're looking like they had a great culture. And the first ones were called the Adena people. Now, they were here, they lasted from 1000 BC to 200 AD. And then it starts to get confusing. Then the Hopewell people, and they took over basically from 300 BC to 700 AD. Now, if you think about it, they interacted with each other. So there's a mystery on where did these people come from? Who are these people? Although the two shared many cultural traits and coexisted for 500 years, their exact relationship is not known. To what degree did the Adena, were they ancestral to the Hopewell, or whether did they have conflicts between each other? It's a mystery. No one knows. Scholars have theories about the people. Some theorize they came from Middle America. Some theorize that they came from the Great Lakes. But that's the most interesting thing about this great culture, is that no one knows. And the only way we can find out more about them is from our early digs, the early digs of what they found, because now we're not allowed to find out anything from what they dig. So, yes, sir.
From what I understand, going back thousands of years, there was a giant, essentially, ice sheet going across Canada right above.
Right. Yeah. That's how the land bridge.
Yeah.
Yes.
The land bridge actually was the Bering Strait.
Right.
I'm talking about the actual ice wall.
Right.
That they had to, which was nearly impossible to climb over.
Right.
And the Salish people, I believe, were one on Western Washington, Western Washington area.
Right.
So from what I understand, there's people going back. They have the footprints now.
Like I was saying, we could spend a lot of time talking about this subject. Like I said, this is a really fascinating subject, and I'll talk to you more about that, because I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was just curious.
But because isn't it fascinating that all the scholars, it's a mystery.
Plus tons of the bias still exists.
But what I'm going to get to, like I said, you'll be. Thank you for bringing that up because
Can I
it's,
just, were you
yeah.
talking about the ice age, the ice wall, you said?
I was talking about a glacier the size of.
Yeah,
of
that was a mile
Iron
high.
Continent, yes.
Yeah, that was during the ice age,
Well, about 12 to 14,000 years ago.
yeah. Okay.
So another great question is, and I'm going to get into this. This was a good question asked by many history books. It says the question is, what happened to them? You know, they're gone. they're just, and then all of a sudden we got Native Americans building on top of mounds and living where the mound, respecting the mounds, but that's just another subject because we're going to talk about this interesting culture because. It's just, it doesn't get talked about a lot, and it should be because they were great people and very spiritual. Their artifacts were amazing. I'm going to pass this book around for you guys. The things that the culture, yeah, here you guys, pass this book around. This is, I didn't get the print off. This is, look how beautiful the things they sculpted. This is the snake mound in Ohio. They actually, it's an effigy mound of a snake, and they built the mound complex, and forever, that's all I knew. So then one day I'm like, I'm gonna research this really good. It's built, the snake's head is pointing right for a meteor crater. They built the snake pointing towards a meteor crater, which I'm like, why don't they ever talk about that in a lot of books, you know? So that's the most fascinating thing. Like I said, these people were very.
Anybody ever been to the Serpent Mound? Anybody here?
No.
I've never been there.
If you haven't been there.
I've
go
always
there.
wanted to go there.
It'll just really blow you away. It's amazing.
Very, very, like I said, you can feel the spiritualness. My buddy, I'm gonna get the book here.
The Serpent Mound's in Ohio, by the way.
My friend on Facebook, this is his book. It's called Whispers from the Grave, Tass Speaks. It's all about Moundsville. And it's all about, he covers the work of the historian that was the first curator at the museum. And all his work is not talked about anymore. So he put it in a book because it's very important but it's a long story, but to just get back, like I said, Gina said, stay on task. I'm listening to Coach. What?
You've been to all the mounds in this area.
No, not all the mounds.
A lot of them. But Moundsville.
This is where I live.
Right.
And
Moundsville is
yeah.
one of the biggest mounds in the area. But didn't you tell me that there was many mounds?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to get to. Yeah, Dave, that's what I wanted to explain. It's so exciting. You know, I don't have the pictures here, but if you go to the ADHD historian, and like I sent around that flyer that tells you everything about, on that one flyer, it tells you all my history pages that I have. But right now I concentrate, I'm pulling all my files from all my history pages and putting it on the ADHD historian. That's a long story in itself. But anyways, I just shared it to the top. All this stuff we're talking about tonight. Go to if you're on Facebook, go to the ADHD historian, and I put up some interesting videos talking about everything. But the real interesting thing is I did a file on Mike's book, but it's actually a file on the Grave Creek Mound, which was called the Mammoth Mound. So I was in that museum. And I'm like, you know, I was so happy to be there, and me and my friend were just running through. But there on the wall, they had a map of Moundsville. And it was a huge complex of earthworks. They even had a moat dug around the mound. And it went out to the river. It was just an amazing place. And throughout my research now, I've even gone down there and hanging out with Michael. I'm like, this was Mecca. So like I was saying, if you guys know what Mecca is, in the Middle East, they all go to Mecca a certain time of year. And once again, all these Adena people, the Mound Builders, which then they went into the Hopewell, they all mapped out, they knew so much about the world and the energy of the world and the stars. And so every time, that's what I was telling Mike, this is Mecca. They came here, and what's so fascinating now, a lot of people who study, and maybe a lot of people don't know, but all these Indian trails were basically, the Indians followed the Mound Builder trails, because the Mound Builders, they had a trade system that went clear to the Great Lakes and clear to Florida. They were getting copper. They were getting it was a huge civilization like ours. It was huge. I talk about this a lot when I talk about Native Americans, because my son asked me this question. Where'd they live, Dad? I said, well, we live in Greene County. So I said, you know where Graysville is? He's like, yeah, there was a town there. You know, you go right down the highway. We just built right on top of their civilization. But like I was saying to you guys earlier about the Indians, they respected, they knew that these people probably from, you know, they knew just the mounds were sacred, they never destroyed them, and, you know, because these people were it's just really fascinating. But yeah, Dave, yes, Mom.
Clarify something for me.
Sure.
The Adenas were not Native Americans?
No, they're called Native Americans. They were here, but they weren't. They were different humanoids. That's what I said. They don't know how they got here, but I'm going to get to that.
Okay, sorry.
But that's okay. It's really fascinating. But I mean, if you look, I mean, it's like taboo to even talk about that. But that's what's so fascinating. The more you research, the more I found these people. They were different. They were taller, a lot taller.
Oh, those were the giants then.
But that's what I'm going to get to. So I want to get to, so now I gave you a big picture of what the Mound Builder, I wanted to tell you guys, because they say, why did they get their names? So the Adena name came from an estate near Chillicothe, Ohio. Okay, so this is where, in Ohio, Chillicothe is where, it was basically, like it says in here, this was where a large mound stands and is what was the heartland of the Adena culture. So that was another Mecca, you know, because that's a mound, because all the mound, there's like, you know, I don't know, like they said about, what was that, Michigan had 20,000 mounds, I don't know, but anyways, 12,000 I think, but I know Ohio, I don't even know, I never researched exactly how many mounds they discovered in Ohio, but Ohio was just loaded, that whole, I guess maybe it's just, but anyways. And the Hopewell were also named after Mordecai Cloud Hopewell, that was his name, and they actually have there's a 300-acre mound group, earthworks made there at his, where the Hopewell were named after his, because there was a whole bunch of, that's where they just, these people were different than the Adena, because a lot of the, like I said, I could get into that story, but I want to move on from that. But I want to get, so like I said, I've been researching, and then I found this book. It's called Indian Villages and Place Names in Pennsylvania by Donahoe. I can't remember his name.
George?
I think, yeah, thank you, it's George Donahoe. But this book, every time I even talk on podcasts and things like that, I tell people, this is the book it's the keystone to, we're the Keystone State, right? It's the keystone to learning about Native American history, because this book was printed a long time ago, in 2006, I believe. I can't, not 2000, 1906. But all the research he did is just fantastic. So I'm going to get into that. So in the back, I'm going to read to you these are the prehistoric works just in Pennsylvania, because these mound builders were basically they built their mounds usually by the rivers. So their big mounds were. So here's in Allegheny County, a large burial mound at the site of McKee's Rocks. Now I cover that on the page. Because I didn't get Gina to print off. She was busy working the last 2 days, so I couldn't. She was just busy, so I forgot to tell her about the McKees. But if you go to my ADHD page, you'll find all about McKees Rocks. And Carnegie was in charge of the Carnegie Museum was in charge of that dig. And so that there was a large burial mound at the site of McKees Rocks below Pittsburgh, overlooking the Ohio River. The mound was investigated by the Carnegie, like I was saying. So there was a semicircular mound, stone mound, and stone graves near Bridgeville. There were stone mounds near the Thompson Station, and also the Thompson Station is basically, I think that's a town. I didn't look at, but also they're opposite side of the Monongahela River. There's various mounds found along the Monongahela River on various points near there too. Some of them were noted on early maps as Indian forts. Now, you guys know about there's places still to this day. That's what they would name, the old timers would name where there were mounds and mound works around the mounds. They call them Indian forts, which makes sense, because they didn't know, because when they got here, the Indians were gone. So they reminded people of, like Roman, Roman mount, whatever, the earthworks of ancient Europe and stuff. So that's why they called them Indian forts. So you'll see that if you do research about the area, when you'll see it, like, there's Fort Hill, and then you say, there was an Indian complex there. So now you know that was. So I'm going to read on now. Let's see. Okay, there were these and various other mounds were found along the Monongahela River at various points. Okay, that's what I just read. Okay, it is stated as a tradition that what I just explained to you. Sorry, forgive me. Let's see, formally, okay, that's, okay, and I can't get into this, but there was a burial, okay, this is great. I got to tell you guys about this, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I know about it. The hill known as Grant's Hill in Pittsburgh, which is basically Grant Avenue. Have you guys heard about the story about why it's called? Does anybody know why they call it Grant Avenue? And I ask that question a lot, and people say, General Grant from the Union Army? No, it goes all the way back to the French and Indian War. And it was when Forbes sent guys down, and he told them not to attack, but they did, and they all got wiped out. And that's Grant's Avenue, because all those guys, I know, but when you, I got to tell you guys, when you start researching Native American history and you ask the question, why did they fight with each other? So, why didn't they like each other? It was basically the war in the forest. I'm sorry to jump into the future, but I'm explaining Grant's Avenue to you guys, because it's very, very, it's something we don't hear about these days. But they put the heads of all the guys they killed on pikes and lined it all the way down to, and that's how. Sorry to tell you guys the bloody story of Grant Avenue, but that's and I cover that on the ADHD a lot, and I'll share that story to the page in the next couple days. So let's see. Yeah, that's what, I mean, it just, this is such a great subject, and once again, I thank you guys for letting me tell you what I know about all this stuff. Armstrong County. There was a large mound at Manorville between Katanning and Ford City, from which many skeletons have been removed. Let's see, mounds near Beaver Falls. I'm just gonna go right down and this is a very fascinating one. Petroglyphs on the bedrock of the Ohio River. You guys know what petroglyphs are? That's how they printed, basically what they were saying. I'll tell you more on it says petroglyphs extend across the river to Georgetown. Representations of eagles, turtles, deer, and various other birds and animals cover the rocks in the bed of the river. Now, I don't think that you can see these now because of we put all the locks on the rivers and everything. But back in the day, this is, like I said, this was written back in, and he even said you couldn't see them anymore. But he was just getting all his information. This book is basically a reference book, and he all through the book, Indian places and names in Pennsylvania, he covers all, he tells you what book he got that from. It's very, like I said, it's very good. So you can find old books from this book. That's why I said this is the keystone. If you want to research Native American history, this is the book to get. So basically, what they were saying about they were those petroglyphs were like they were like stories of their hunts they had on the trail that went across. The Great Trail goes across the river there, so that's why they would write on those rocks when they got back from their. So down in Greene County, there's a mound at Ryerson Station State Park, and that's right beside where I live. And the fascinating thing is, it's hard to find in books, but if you go down to Ryerson Station State Park and you look where the ranger house is, Mom, where the main ranger stays in that old brick house, it's built up on a mound. That's the mound.
Oh,
It's on a mound.
Okay.
So I'd love to go down and hang out and see what's, that's it. Maybe have a camp out at their house.
How far is that from?
Not from our house, no. Yeah. All from Moundsville too, yeah. There's mounds all through the woods where we live too. Like I showed you that big map, guys. This, the mounds, they were just a huge. Think of them as the United States of America, and they were big. They were into the building. That mound building was what they did, and. So anyways, that's I wanted to tell you about. The mound about 2 miles above the mouth of the creek opposite of Millsboro. Millsboro, you know where that Millsboro is, Mom, right? Going to Washington County. You're going towards Shane's house that way.
Okay.
Fredericktown. Yeah, is it Fredericktown? I think. But anyways, there's mounds there, and also mounds and graves in various places. In the region of Waynesburg. Now, I don't know, but I was researching an old farm grave site, and someone sent me an aerial photograph of where that graveyard is, and it's a mound. Now, yeah, and that's what I always tell people. Like I was telling you guys, we built on top of their civilization. We also buried our people on mounds. So that's, yeah. So I know it's a mound. I mean, but you know what I mean. So there we are. So now, finally, Fayette County. This is fascinating, and you'll like this, Mom. There was a number of burial mounds and burial grounds at various parts of this county. Redstone Old Fort. Now this is the most fascinating, and I got to tell Shane about this. I've always wanted, yeah, Redstone, where Shane's house is? Okay, yeah. Okay, Redstone Old Fort at Brownsville was perhaps the most noted of these Thomas Ashe visited it in 1806 and left an account of his observations, which are not accordance with the observations of early settlers in the region. According to his account, it was a pentagon, which enclosed an acre of 13. It was about 13 acres. It was enclosed. So right there where Shane, because the mound was actually where Fort Byrd was. They built where the mound was. They put Fort Byrd right at the. So that's right where the castle is. So that's I found that really fascinating. Let's see, and so let's see. This is another book for you guys to write down. Let's see, in the book, and he refers to it in this. In the book Monongahela of Old by James Veitch, Judge James Veitch, he was a judge, and some lady came in the natural way. She's with the Dunbar Historical Society, told me about this book, and I told her I knew about it, but anyways, Judge James Veitch accepted the view from the historical evidence that the earthworks were made from a race of more intelligent or of people of a different habits of life than the Native Americans. So once again, so now finally, we're going to get to where we are right now. Okay, this is but I gotta tell you this, Mom. There was actually a mound out in Bullskin on our creek, and it was right by Irishman Run. A big mound. Yeah, there was a big mound there too. So now here we are, last but not least, opposite the town of Dawson, near the mouth of Dickerson Run, was the site of mound earthworks. So, so that's why that leads us to where we are today, and that's why I wanted to come here and talk about this, because it gets more exciting from here, because my dad always told me that, and the Boy Scouts around the campfire, that when they were digging the PNLE Railroad, they were digging a spot for the roundhouse. They found giant skeletons, and then a lot of people said, and I tell people, oh, that's a myth, but it's not a myth, because we're gonna get to this guy. I'll pass this around for you guys. His name was Andy O'Donnell. You didn't know I printed one off for you too, Mom. It's a picture of Andy O'Donnell. Now he's the guy. If you were here for the last talk, he's the guy that lived down the tracks from that train wreck, and he was there trying to help out. And when he pulled a body from the burning, and Mom was talking about that in the last talk. So he's the guy. He's also the gentleman that had a ferry that ran back and forth from Dickerson Run.
I didn't know there was a ferry there.
Yeah, there was a ferry, and him and his brother, Mom, they ran a ferry boat from Dickerson Run, from Dawson to Dickerson Run, from the bottom of what did you call that road they used to call it, Mom? St. James Road. Now it's River Road, but yeah, he lived on the corner. If you had passed the site of Old Phil's nightclub, and then you cross the tracks right there where you make the left to go down to the back way to Linden Hall, as we all call it, that's where he lived, right there. So he was in the key spot. But back to what I was talking. I didn't know Andy O'Donnell was the source of Dad's telling us around the campfire about the giant skeletons. And I've researched about giant skeletons for a very long time, so I can't remember how tall do you remember how tall they said they were? Because these giants were between 6'7" to 9 feet tall.
You'll have to ask Paul for that book that Dad loaned him.
Okay.
It's the only book, and I can't remember the title of it.
I have a book that I found that talks about the giants of the United States. There was not just giants here. They were all, I'm from Wisconsin, and I know there were giants in Wisconsin.
Right.
They found giant bones there. All over the United States, there were giant people.
Back to my like saying, we don't know they have no idea who these people were. And then, like you said, and I showed you the extent of their kingdom. It was huge. They were all over this country. And like you said, they found giants in these mounds all over the country, and they don't talk about it.
What, are the bones still around?
No. And Dad said, Dad told me around the campfire all the time that that the newspaper so I want to go to the Courier someday and try to find, I know. I looked up, hold on a second, guys, 2
As
seconds.
far as I know, Terry, the Smithsonian Institution in Washington DC squelched all that information.
Right, yeah, I don't want to cover that too much, but I just wanted to let people do their own research and I don't want to point any fingers. But anyways, but I just want to leave this is a fascinating mystery, and there were giants. There was evidence. So like if you go to my page, there's an article from the 1800s when they dug up the McKee Sport. I wanted Gina to print that off. I'm sorry, I apologize, I didn't get her to print it. But it's on my ADHD historian page. There's a story about the giants just there. But like I said, if you research this subject, it's just so many giants. I wrote down in one of my posts that there were 9 foot tall giants. And I'm like, and I've been reading, like I said, a lot the last couple weeks about between 6, 7, and 8 foot. I was trying, where did I find that 9? I'll just look on YouTube. So I found it on YouTube, and it was 9. There were 3 9-foot giants dug up in Ohio, 9 foot. So they were huge.
What happened with the bones? I cannot remember.
Well, that's what I never knew, but like Dave was saying, the people in charge back then were was Carnegie Museum. So I assumed Carnegie, because that's what they did with these other mounds. They just took them, and then like Indiana Jones.
You could do genetic testing. Maybe it's just one of the original humans. There's 3 or 4 different kinds. It might not be a huge mystery.
I don't know, but like you said, but there is that theory, because I'm going to get to that in a second about where did they go. But anyways, I have it on the on a post on. I'll post it tomorrow on the ADHD about when because I was trying to figure out when did they build Dickerson Run yard, and it was 1882, because that's when they built the town. It's not named after Dickerson. The story of Dickerson. Let's see, do you guys know that? Do you guys know the story of Dickerson Run and Dickerson? He founded Liberty, and yeah. So, but I assumed that but it was the railroad that called it Dickerson Run. It was known as Gailey Town, I believe. Galley Town, thank you, Galley Town. I have it somewhere here. All these notes. But yeah, so I thought I saw someone raising a quote. So I'm gonna I know how much time we have. We running out of time.
Keep talking.
Okay. So then one day I found this book. It's a 1959 directory of the Monongahela and River Valley history of the river valleys. It's amazing. I'll pass this around. It's the name. It's like there's even towns that no one ever heard of in there. I don't know if this is coming on. Is this coming on?
Hey, Terry, I was going to mention one thing. We're talking about giants. I I know that I was in Malta, okay, over here. Okay, and in Malta, there was giants there. If you watch the History Channel,
Yeah.
Ancient Aliens, that, they know there was giants there. So there's giants there, we had giants over here. There were giants all over the world, really.
Yeah,
They were here.
I know.
People don't realize
But
that.
I know that from all my research, it's just like I had to talk about it, because this is what's fascinating. In that book, Cemetery of the Giants, found near Youghiogheny River, from the 1859 directory, this is in there. 8 miles below Connellsville. So I went to Connellsville. This is where they dug these up. I went to Connellsville today, went to the bike trail, because I was trying to figure out how far is it from Dawson? Because I've been trying to figure out where this place would be, 8 miles below. So it's actually 8 miles below Connellsville is actually 3 more miles down the river between here and Perryopolis. Yeah, yeah. So that's where this was. 8 miles below Connellsville on the Youghiogheny River is a very extensive and complete establishment. Okay, this tells you about what was going on and how he found it. Now the guy, his name's Colonel Alexander Hill. He actually is the guy who he's the founder of Vanderbilt. But it was actually called. Did you guys know that Vanderbilt was called Alexandria? Is that the end? Alexandria, right? Yeah. 'Cause I can't find. Here it is. Yeah, Alexandria. Yeah, I know it's Alexandria because I asked that question in here.
Excuse me, Terry, but you know, Nelson's, where they live, the bus company?
Yeah.
Okay, that was part of the Hill Plantation. My mother and dad owned property across there. It was also part of the Hill Plantation.
Yeah, from my research, I was really happy. I found a lot of it in the. Now I'm going to post this on the ADHD. I posted on Terry today. I'll pass this around for you guys to check it out. This is the history. Since we don't have a lot of time, like I'd love to read that guys to you guys, but I put it all together. I put a good write-up together about Dickerson Run and Vanderbilt and Dawson because that's I like to keep compiling information. A lot of the information was from the Tri-Town.
1972.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of information in there. So back to that. So he's the one that discovered this, the giants. Okay, that's giant bones. Okay, there. Let's see. Where's okay. At one time, okay. So there was the proprietor of the farm upon which this cemetery of giants was located. Colonel Alexander went there. Let's see. Ordered that all that could be reached and turned up by plow and gathered and hauled to one spot. So they dug up all these giants' bones, and they how when you clear the rocks, clear the field of rocks so you can work the land. That's what they basically did with these bones. So let's see. I'm sorry. Alexander Hill described the bones to us as being those of giants. The tibula or thigh bone being near 12 inches longer than that of a full-size man of present day, and the jawbone so large they passed with ease over the largest size of the head or face of any human, extended behind the back and neck. In connection with this, it was well mentioned that a year ago before this, there was found at the same grounds a massive iron collar or ring. Now we're talking iron. This ring had attached in 6 points, and so in other words, that's when I found that I'm like, wow. So I was thinking, I wanted to find out. So there was more. So back to where the mystery of where did they go? in this book, and this is what fueled my fire to learn more about Native Americans' history, because there's a legend that the Delaware, the Lenape have, and it's passed down from generation to the Olam, I can't remember right now, but it's their the red I have it written down here, but I wanted to tell you guys about. See, I talk about this war so much, I don't even have to look at my notes. Like I said, because if it wasn't for that, I think I would have stopped learning about. But once again, I didn't know about that, but I knew about this war when I knew about, my dad talked about giants. So when the Lenape and the Mengwa, but that's basically Iroquois-speaking people, they all were basically following the sun. So they traveled, that's how they came to this area. And so when they got to the border of this, they asked the people if they could come through. And these people were large, very large, they said. And they said, sure. But then when they saw how many people were migrating into their territory, they attacked them. So they had a huge war that lasted for years, and the battles were so intense, which I think that's what they found up there. It was one of the battles with the giants, was one of the battlefields. But anyways, the Lenape, which is the Delaware Indians, and the Iroquois speaking nations, they won. So they conquered them. So what happens when you conquer people? So, like you were talking about DNA, the Cherokee are very tall. The Susquehanna, who are Iroquois, they're very tall, and we have I have on that file on Michael on this Moundsville file I have a tall, that he has a 6, I think the 6'7", I think that's where the 6'7" came from, was from the 6'7" skeleton of Susquehanna Indians. So I think they conquered them. They learned to speak their language. So basically, as when we finally got here, that's what happens. We're talking like they said in here, 500 years. The Adena and the Hopewell lived amongst each other. So, we're talking now way in the future, and a war that the only people, they do have record of that war in this book, and in the Native Americans, their tradition, it's true. So I truly find this a very, very fascinating subject. And like I said, I respect the Smithsonian and every, but now that we live in this great age of enlightenment, I call this the second age of enlightenment. I've been calling it that for a long time. But now with the computers, this is, you learn as much as you can, because there's more out there on this than we're told. So.
Terry, I grew up hearing my godfather talk about when the bridge was built and when they were ferrying people across the river until the bridge was built, and them digging up the roundhouse and finding the bones. That was part of my memory as a small child, sitting on their front porch that overlooked the B&O Railroad, the river, and the PNLE.
Right.
So I heard many tales. We didn't have a lot of radio.
Yeah, that was your story time was on.
And he was a wonderful storyteller.
And he was there when they dug it up.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, that's a.
And I've always known about the giants. I've always known about the mounds. Moundsville, of course, when we lived in Green County, we were there many times. The Serpent Mound, I've been there several times. I didn't know there were mounds all over the place. Why aren't people talking about this? Why? I mean, I'm serious.
Yeah, I know, it's a.
But I know a
You know, and there was someone did ask the question, I think it was Dave, or maybe you did, I don't know, but Sean told me this. He said, Grandpap Dominic said they threw the bones in the concrete when they laid the concrete for the roundhouse. So, yeah. He said, so that's what Grandpap said. So maybe if we go over there and dig up some of the concrete, I don't know. But that's what I was like, wow.
I was gonna mention,
It's very enlightening.
so I'm from Wisconsin, like I said, but I know there's a lizard mound area, which is to the west of Kewaskum, Wisconsin, the big Indian name. And, but they're not as big as like a serpent mound. It's not, that's a big snake. The lizard mound area is a state park that they developed because there was like effigy mounds.
Yeah,
You know, but they were smaller, but they were mounds that they, you know, made into like animals.
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. That has to be an
Yeah.
effigy mound.
And that's what they have in Wisconsin. But also, I was gonna mention that, and if you're not aware, in southern Illinois, there is a huge mound, which is, I think the base of it was almost larger than the pyramids in Egypt. There's a mound that they have, we know about, you know, it's been on TV many, many times.
Okay.
But it's not as high as the pyramids in Egypt, but the base of it is much larger.
Yeah. So what time is it? Is it 6?
It's about
7, I mean. Well, any questions? I'd love, like I said, I love talking about history. This is my favorite subject, Native American history, and like I said, the mystery behind who the Mound Builders was. It's a mystery that kept my fire burning until, you know, here we are, where we at, and it's information, like I said, the second age of enlightenment. So I'm going to spend more time with Mike down in Moundsville. You might want to check out his book.
Is he the curator down there?
No, he's the one that wrote the book about the old curator. That all his research. Oh, remember when I went in to the mound and into the museum, and I was like, wow! It was like Moundsville's laid out a whole bunch of mounds, right? Well, guess what? That wall, they took it all down. The size of that wall memorial is about this size in a glass case, like hidden like in the corner or somewhere. It's like they don't want us to know. I don't understand it. I was like, so, but that, if it wasn't for that
What
even.
did they find in Mount?
But I do cover the story. Like I said, I shared that with
What's his last name?
Burke, Michael Burke. Yeah. Yeah, he's a principal down in Moundsville forever. He taught kids. Yeah, any other questions, anybody?
We lived in Somerset County for about 20 years, and there was a huge mound at Fort Hill.
Yeah, it's like,
You could see it, you know, from the road.
like I said, there's so many, like I said, when you see something's named Fort Hill, then you'll know that now that you know, that's what they actually named earthworks and mounds, the site of mounds.
Where's Fort Hill? Outside of Concord. I don't remember if it's.
There's a Fort Hill, there's a couple Fort Hills here too. Yeah, yeah. Any other questions? No.
I was just wondering if the mound by her house is that similar or where she used to live? Is that as big as the one in Moundsville? Or Somerset? The one-
No, I doubt it, or who knows though, you know, but like I said,
She would know.
it's not gone, right? Is that?
Mound where you used to live in Somerset as big as the one?
No, this one's definitely gone. Yeah, the railroad cleared, that's usually what happened to most mounds,
You haven't seen it?
yeah, they just clear for progress,
Was it
as they call it.
found though?
Huh?
You knew it
Yes.
wasn't it, really?
Yes.
Never heard that before. So I said, why is it so secretive? They're, oh, yeah.
You don't
It's
know.
all about this.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, right.
Is it
Oh, I was really good friends with a curator. I worked at Waynesburg College as a chef, and I got to hang out with this guy. He was a really cool Korean veteran. They called him Fuzzy. William Randolph. Yeah, I think that's his last name. But anyways, I called him Fuzzy. I'm like, hey, Fuzzy, what's going on with, they're building this Walmart up there. What about checking? And he's like, oh, the pit comes in and then they just build. So that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
they come in and just do shovel tests or
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
Oh, there's nothing here. Yeah.
My one friend, she works for PennDOT, and, anytime they're gonna do a project, they go out and do a shovel test. If they find something of significance, then they'll go in and do some more, but most of the time it's nothing.
Yeah.
Like I said over here where they put the pipeline in at Nelson's, when they put the third pipeline in, Pitt went in there and they recovered all the artifacts out of that particular area. And that was 1985, so.
Yeah, it's just turn, yeah.
One of the first things that went for me being an outsider coming into this area, one of the first things that I heard about this area is the giants down at the train turnaround, And
Oh, yeah.
like, oh my God, this is so interesting.
Yeah, so,
That
yeah.
this would be a local heritage in your area.
But hey, now that you bring that up, Dave, even though if we even just talk about the Mound Builders, it should be recognized that there was a mound there. And that would be, other than the railroad, I don't know if we have a plaque over there yet or not, for the railroad, and what a great railroad yard it was, but also saying that there was a Native American, an Adena mound here, complex. Yeah, right? Yeah, so yeah, I thought about that when I was writing all this up for the.
There should be a plaque down there.
Yeah, they should have a plaque. I think it's very, like I said, we owe these people. Yeah, they had a civilization, and they knew more about the world and the stars than we do. It's
One of
just,
the reasons there's not plaques in a lot of places is because if you put a plaque up, people will go in there and try to.
well, yeah, you're right, and I saw what happened to
There's nothing
Dunbar.
around there.
Yeah, up on the trail, and it was really sad. I filmed the trail a lot, and I was so happy they put the Dunbar history on the end of the sheepskin trail right there where the fork goes off. It was beautiful, and then like they stole it.
Well, I don't mean they're still in the plaques, I mean people going in and vandalizing the area trying to dig for artifacts.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you're right about that
Dig
too.
up the area and just trying
Yeah.
to take everything under it, so.
Yeah,
I
that-
think there's something there.
That's true. They don't want that to happen
I mean,
too.
Ohio, that's really a bad thing out there. And I mean, people will buy a whole farm out there just because they know all these burials are on there. They'll go out and dig the burials up, take the burial goods, and just leave the bones strewn around on the surface. So,
Yeah,
Sell some of that.
that's tough.
yeah, you're right.
And
That's
some of the stuff, if it's burial goods, a lot of times they're the better made things. They'll sell for high prices and they'll go into private collections, so.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's another reason why. Sad, but true. Yeah, that's. Wish we could all just go back to how these people were and they all got along.
They didn't always get along.
No, but as I was saying.
Well, that's true. We estimated a burial that, and there was a 4-inch point underneath the center of its back, laying on the ground. So that's what killed it. So they fought with each other, but the later villages had stockades around them, and they were heavily stockaded. Going back in the time, no stockades whatsoever, because they traded
Right.
slowly back and forth, but when times got hard, they put stockades up, and that was, people said it was keep the animals out there.
No, they fought. Yeah, you're right.
Animal ran through the village, it was getting eaten, so. But that was to keep other people out, and that's why they're there.
Yeah, they did have stockade, like you said, the palisade fences
The one
around
we
it.
did down Sudlersville had double stockade all.
Was it Monongahela culture? Yeah, which is another subject. And then what will really confuse you is now check out this name for people in the future from the Hopewell and the Adena. They're called Fort Ancient.
Yeah.
So you think, oh, they're the oldest ones. No, they're not.
Fort Ancient were were kinda almost about the same as the late Monongahela.
Yeah, they were together. Yeah, they lived together, like coincided, like the.
I have different theories. Well, I talked to numerous guys about that, and I think the Fort Ancient were actually the people who lived where the Monongahela lived before. And then they moved to where Fort Ancient is, and then they developed in two different, and the Monongahela actually came from around the Chesapeake Bay area, I believe. And they come up there, and then they ended up becoming enemies, fighting back and forth. And that was toward the time of the mini ice age,
Right.
when everything was getting bad, and food and sources were scarce. But the Monongahela, yeah, there's sites all up and down these rivers, every one of these rivers. That's why I call them Monongahela, because the Monongahela drainage system.
Yeah, that's what, when I do the Occoganee River Valley History page, I made a file on the Monongahela, but I said, the Occoganee River Indians, but then I said, but they're the Monongahela. But they lived all along the rivers too, so, yeah.
And everybody said, well, they interacted. Well, no, they didn't interact. They were basically the same people.
Right.
They lived in an area, I figured, for about 7 to 15 years at a time.
Yeah, they moved.
So by that time, they burned everything off, they killed all the animals, there was hardly anything else to survive on. They just picked up and
Moved up to
30,
the,
40 miles
Yeah.
upstream someplace.
yeah,
And it would only take them a short time, because the kind of places they built wouldn't take them long to do.
right.
And they're clearing the land anyway, they just use the resources from that, so.
Are there any mounds out by Rainy Town or up?
I didn't do the deep research about, but I know,
All those
but they did say, now that you bring that up, they did say, I didn't cover that when I was going, I skipped through real fast to go, to get to Dawson and Dickerson Run.
because Dad used to take me back
Near Perryopolis, Mom.
and find all the arrowheads up there.
What did I do with that notebook? I don't know. But near Perryopolis,
Overlooking the river.
that's not this one.
Monongahela usually kept in a high, like saddle area on the top of the hill, they had long growing usually. And then there usually was a way down to the river at a crossing. Because after you can see up here on
Hickory Square.
Up by Hickory Square, that whole area up there,
Right.
it's steep right there where it goes down to the river, but you can go down and Crawford's right on the other side, so you can walk across the
It
river.
was loaded with arrows.
Yeah, we always used to go up there, yeah.
There's numerous sites up there, and,
We took our dog up there looking for arrowheads and stuff, and the dog ran off, and of course, who had to go get the dog, right? So, go get the dog! So I was running around looking for the dog. I found a beautiful old cemetery up there.
that's up in the corner.
Yeah, it overlooks the river. It's amazing. And
I was up there about 40 years ago, and yeah, somebody dug down one of the graves down, about that deep down in. Did you see that? It's been like that for a long time. But, yeah, there's right on a corner up there where the woods are, there's a grave in there, and somebody dug it down about that deep. But I don't know if they ever dug it all the way down, but they started to.
once again, that's like I said, why isn't there any respect for the dead, even our dead? It's like, yeah, I don't understand. But anyways, thanks again. For any more questions before because like I said, I'm happy that we're all talking about this. I hope no one had to go.
Thank you for bringing this to everyone's attention, Terry.
Oh, you're welcome. Like I said, I had to because
Very interesting.
I know we're going to do the Historical Society. We're going to have a talk on Native Americans, on Nicole was telling me, on Native American Month. But I said, can I please talk about the Adena and the Mound Builders first? Because it's a subject that has to be talked about because of, like I said, what I've uncovered. And I'll keep researching until, like I tell this guy with this book, I'll keep talking about the Moundsville. Oh, there it is. There's. It was hiding under Michael's book, but yeah. So yeah.
Oh, I remember the second week in August, on our normal Saturday that we're up, and we'll have Westmoreland Archaeological Society here, and we'll be set up probably in this room, and have artifacts, and we'll talk to people about all that.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
So, if you know anybody who's interested in having stuff done.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to share all that to get people to come to.
Yeah, we've set up down at the Historical Society down in Greene County there.
Oh, okay.
Numerous times, yeah.
Yeah, they. I know Matt I never met him in person, but I know him from emails back and forth.
Oh, I know him. Shortly after he took over, I met him, and
They're doing a great job down there,
he's unbelievable what he's done.
especially with the train. I'm excited about the train.
Oh, that big museum in Waynesburg.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
they're doing a great
It
job.
was all overgrown, it was a mess. I mean, he's cleaned that whole thing up and taken it to a new
before you get to
level.
Waynesburg, I
He's done-
forget the name.
he's done
of it,
all
you
of
have to
it.
take a left and go down there, probably a mile or so. It was
Yeah, that's quite the place.
amazing.